What's going on, everyone? This is Andrew O'Connell with Pristine Capital coming at you with yet another market recap video. It is March 26th, 2021. We are leaving off this week with a bang. Some awesome price action today. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this content, and I will continue to make it for you. Today, we're going to talk about the price action, the indices. We're going to go under the hood and check out our sectors and style factors like we always do. We'll talk about some of my trades for the day, and then we'll wrap up with some options order flow. But before we jump in, quick risk disclaimer as always, nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Please follow your own trading plan, your own risk parameters, and last but certainly not least, do not YOLO your entire account into any one of my trades. Alright, so let's jump in. Happy Friday, everyone. What an awesome way to end off here. So we had the S&P 500 up 1.61%. We had the NASDAQ QQQ finish up 1.5%. We had the IWM small caps finish up 1.82%. And we had the Dow Jones finish up 1.36%. So if we take a look at our S&P 500 here, it's crazy what a day's difference makes. It is so wild. So if we look at our monthly value area here, you can see S&P 500 broke out cleanly above the monthly value area. You can see we're above all the key moving averages, and we are looking solid in terms of this uptrend. And what's crazy is literally 2 days ago, on this day here, this was definitely sentiment got very bearish. So I showed everyone fear and greed is at this level, put to call ratios at this level, I'm seeing XYZ on my feed, all that stuff. I was feeling the same way for the most part. The only thing that made me a little bit more positive was because I could see how bearish everyone was getting. And on my feed that night, it was a million messages you don't have to risk anything in the market, man. Be patient out there and cautious. And it's always that's great advice after we've already flushed out, in the market. So anyway, today we ended up getting a really nice day in the market, some nice follow through. But I will say throughout the day, it was definitely a roller coaster of up and down. There were some crazy things going on in the market today. You can see here, if we go to our hourly chart, a lot of it came in the last hour of the day. So we definitely had, nice power hour here. Because you can see we were kind of struggling around this weekly value area low for a while. And it was all right, now we're dipping below it. Now we're dipping above it. We keep wicking out on both sides. And then once 3 p.m. hit, we were just off to the races. It was crazy. At around 2 o'clock, on this long wick here, it looked oh man, are we going to go red into the weekend? It was really tough. I ended up getting a super strong finish. If we look at the Qs are starting to look a little bit different here. So you can see here, we are still trading below our monthly value area. So this is in a downtrend, but we're above the 20-day moving average, and we're also above the 5-day EMA. We are still below the 50-day moving average, so that's not really that great. But we are approaching month end. And once we get to April, we're not going to have this value area anymore. This is the new value area that's developing right over here. So as you can see, technically by this value area, we're below it. We're in a downtrend. But if you look, we've really been moving sideways for the better part of 2 to 3 weeks. So it's not oh my gosh, the Qs are breaking down and really plumbing the lows or really downtrending. We're just kind of chopping around here. So we're definitely not out of the woods yet on the Qs. But it's good that we were able to follow through today, that's for sure. And then if we take a look, we'll pull up our IWM. You can see IWM looking pretty strong here as well. Nice bounce. You can see we were below this monthly value area, and we jumped right back into it. So really steep correction in small caps. We still have not come anywhere near close recovering that. But it's nice to get a little hammer candle here and close pretty much right on that 50-day moving average. So we'll have to see what happens with the IWM. But much more positive looking today. with that really nice run into the end of the day. The Dow Jones coming into today's session, by far to me looked the best. And you can see here, we're also well above this monthly value area. We're going to be in a new value area in a couple days, and you can see we're pressing right up against the top of that new one here. Really nice follow through, closing towards the top end of today's range. So yeah, Dow Jones just continues to look positive. All right, so let's pull up our sectors and style factors. And we'll pull up our heat map first here from the current slide. There we go. Yeah, so a really nice broad strength in the market today. When this heat map, they start showing it at 8 o'clock a.m. When the market opened up, this was a mix of red and green. There were a couple areas that were standing out above the others, but throughout the day, the breadth really picked up and improved. So you can see there were a couple laggards throughout the day, Tesla lagging, Disney, Google. But yeah, other than that, some broad strength today. And if we look at our sectors, you can see here we have the home builders in our top slot up 3.64%. We have the transports up 2.26%. Consumer staples, which are in the number 3 slot, which is kind of strange, up 1.77%. What I mean by kind of strange is it hasn't been in one of the top 3 slots really since the coronavirus crash. And if you look at some of our laggards here down at the bottom, the ones that close red, we have the SPAC ETF, we have the MSOS Cannabis ETF close red, down 1.23%, and then we had the ARK Innovation close down 0.39%. KWeb, which I'm going to talk about more when I talk about my trades for the day, closed up 1.04%, but that is in the bottom slot. For our style factors, you can see here high beta and cyclicals were our best performing style factors. Then we also had quality performing very well, momentum, and really just strength across all of these style factors. Based on the price action today, it looked something like, it was like chopping back and forth all day, buyers and sellers kind of fighting over price. But then towards the end of the day, it was like the sellers just really stepped out of the way and the buyers, really took control. And that can happen sometimes, and you get sort of like this blow off price action like we got today, because that was a crazy power hour we had there. All right, so now for some of my trades for the day. I had one of my craziest trades of the year by far today. So I'm going to pull this up. Coming into today's session, I don't want to get too giddy, oh my gosh, we're going to the moon now or anything like that. Really throughout the last 2 weeks or so, it's been a very challenging tape, a lot of back and forth. So yeah, coming into today's session, I was I'm cognizant of that. I want to make sure, I'm managing my risk and, just being responsible with what I'm doing. So you can see here, what did I do? Yeah, so in the morning, I sold into some of the strength. I closed out some materials calls for $4.10. I paid $3.85 for those. I closed out half of my Starbucks calls for $4.03. I paid $3.94. Just trying to take some of the leverage out, on the morning, just in case we really, took a move to the downside. I entered some FSLR calls, and FSLR is looking pretty interesting today. So this is another one where, wow, man, this one had a nice close. I didn't even realize that. So yeah, FSLR, I saw some options order flow come down for this name, and that's what really got me looking at the name. So that's another good thing, with options order flow. I never just blindly follow it, but sometimes when I see an order come down, it'll be okay, let me check that one out and see how the chart looks. FSLR, it's showing relative strength within these solar stocks, and really clean energy is what's going to carry, this country ahead. And it really has a very long tailwind behind it, whereas traditional energy, it maybe has a short-term tailwind or maybe an intermediate-term tailwind, but it really has a long-term headwind. So with these solar energy names, I've been looking for areas where I can take a shot at them. And there's First Solar. It's kind of building a base here, moving sideways. It tagged the 200-day moving average. Now you can see we're starting to pop out of that base. So I put some calls on the books And these, ended up doing pretty well into the close, which is good. So let's see. Yeah, so FSLR. I got the May 15th 82.5 strike calls for 715. So that one, day one, looking pretty good so far. TLT, I got a really good trade location on a short in TLT. I had bought the 139 strike puts for May for 385. I closed half of those out for 460, really just for prudence. And let me see how TLT closed, because it looked like it was starting to form a green candle. I was like, let me at least take a target here. Okay, so yeah, it's not like it formed like a huge bullish candle. But yeah, a little green. So yeah, it took a half position off there for a nice target. It was a pretty quick one too. Yeah, I entered some Q's puts at around 11.25. Stopped out of those shortly after. I'd paid 714. Stopped out for 670. So that was like a nice, tight stop out. Let me edit this. I forgot a Q here. There we go. So yeah, this one, throughout the many like ups and downs of the market, I just wanted to make sure I was going to be hedged in case we spilled. Didn't really need it there. Then this was my, this, assuming it works out, we'll have to see. There's a long way to go on this trade. But this one was such a high octane, action-packed trade today. This, if it works, this is going to be so far like my best trade for 2021. So Baidu, this name, so I took the April 17th 195 by 200 call spreads. I got those for $2. So I'm risking $2 to make 3. And I clearly indicated here, like playing for an oversold bounce, high risk trade. Like if you're not willing to lose your premium, like don't take this one, essentially. And then 33 minutes later, I added more to it. So I got long the April 17th 190 by 200 call spread for $3.95. So risking $3.95 to make $6.05. And again, I just put high risk trade. But Baidu, this was incredible. So this was really nutty. Let me, I'm going to pull this up. Where was this? Okay, I'm going to have to pull up my trading view again. So I saw a couple things here that really told me like this could be, that fastball up the middle, like that fat pitch to really go after. Like there were a couple of reasons why I thought I had a nice edge in this trade. So Baidu, this name, talk about taking the stairs up and the elevator down. Look at how badly this one has been plunging. It's pretty unreal. So this was when I entered, it was day 3 of this crazy plunge. When I entered, the stock was like pretty much right where it opened, right below 190. And what I saw, I entered this, I think it was around like noon. I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible volume. And this thing is really just falling off a cliff here. And when I was looking at the volume, this is an indicator that I added onto my charts that I built in PineScript. And it's just like a visual representation of how far you are away from key moving averages. So right now I have the 20-day loaded up. And at the time, when I put this trade on, we were so far away from this 20-day. This measure, it was like down here somewhere, like pretty much falling off this grid. And I looked back as far as I could, like several years. And I was like, Baidu has never been this oversold from that 20-day moving average, literally in years. You can see on the weekly, this candle looks crazy. So I was like, okay, this is like a multi-standard deviation move away from that 20-day. The odds are, assuming this isn't like a cataclysmic event, there's a very strong probability that Baidu was going to bounce. And then when I saw the volume that was coming in, I was looking at it here on FinViz. So yeah, I was looking and I saw the relative volume, when I looked was like and 8.5. So I was like, oh my gosh, that is so much. And if you look at the volume today, 110 million shares, the float is 263 million. So pretty much what that means is like a little under half, maybe like 40% of the float changed hands in a single day. So this, I was like, I guarantee almost everyone is getting stopped out of their positions. There's really no one there anymore. This is like an incredible day of volume for a capitulation. So I was like, all the stars are aligning. I got to put a position on here to play for a little bit of mean reversion. Then the other thing that I saw is like, let me check the news, like see what's going on with these names. And so I saw this on Bloomberg. So let me see, where the heck is this? Yeah, bargain hunters may want to think twice before piling into China's beaten down technology stocks. So they're essentially saying like there's more downside in these Chinese tech names. They still trade at valuations above the levels that mark the bottoms of the last two big downturns. Like essentially saying like, even though these stocks have already cratered, don't buy them. And to me, that's like such a contrarian signal when something is like incredibly oversold, and then you're getting people telling you not to buy. Like, where was that article, when Baidu was up at like 350? That article was nowhere to be found. So I saw that too, and I was like, how many people woke up, read that article, and now they're dumping their positions? So I was like, this is just such a flush. And yeah, I saw something else, like there were block trades that were like announced to the world in the morning of like, big sell orders in a couple of these companies. And Baidu was one of them. So I was like, this company Baidu, I feel comfortable with it. Simply Wall Street, the valuation says it's okay. There's actually room for way more upside in terms of the fundamentals. And this is, it's a large cap company. So this is, the market cap 70 billion. If this was something smaller, like say the market cap was like 1 billion or it was like, 2 billion, something like that, I probably wouldn't put a trade like this on. But this is like, mega cap company that has earnings, that has cash flows, that trades at a pretty reasonable valuation. And a lot of people compare this, they say this is like the Google of China. So like imagine if this was like Google or Apple and you saw this level of washout. So I was like, this to me is a fat pitch. I'm going for it. So I entered those call spreads to play for the balance. This thing ended up heading way lower. So another thing that I was looking at, this was just like a combination of a bunch of different factors. So Baidu, I saw this virgin point of control was taken out. And a lot of times those levels, there will be like demand at that level or the stock turns around or pivots. So I was like, okay, we took out the VPOC. So I was like, that's good. So I entered. Little did I know we were going to go all the way down to the 200-day moving average. So that was a surprise. I was sitting in this one and I was like, oh my gosh, are we really about to just fall into the abyss? And we ended up getting a bounce. This one was down like 15% on the day. At one point, closed up, 2%. So that is awesome. We're at 208. So my call spreads, both of them are fully in the money. So this one was just a really cool trade where, those kinds of setups where like, I'm like, I have an edge here, an edge here, an edge here, and an edge here. Where I feel like it really makes sense for me to allocate some of my risk budget, to this trade. This was definitely one of them. So this is one of those where if I lose the trade, it's like I feel like the odds really were in my favor. But yeah, as of right now, looking pretty strong. So yeah, that was pretty cool. That was fun. I closed out a little piece of it for a winner. I always like to do that just to like, all right, I took a piece out just in case, maybe Monday the stock just gaps down and goes crazy to the downside. You never know. So I took a small piece off for 434. I'd paid 395 for one of my call spreads. Then I put on some more Qs puts towards the end of the day as a hedge. Put those on for 1269. Ended up stopping out of those, same day for 964. We just ended up getting, I put here incredible strength into the close. So I was like, I'm not going to go into Monday with any hedges just because, the trend is looking pretty positive here. So that was the Qs. Then for some stock trading, I got long apps. And let's see how apps closed. This is one, it's one of my favorite names. Definitely for sure. But yeah, this one couldn't get the job done today. So I'll have to see what happens with apps. But I entered at 76.34. Or no, 76.29. Yeah. I set a stop lower. But one of my other, goals moving forward is not letting winners turn into losers, especially when you're in a really choppy environment like this. So maybe when you're in like a trending environment, you can give your positions a little bit more room. But for apps, this at one point maybe went to like $77 and change. It ended up coming back, so I stopped out pretty much at break even. I paid $76.29, stopped out for $76.34. So that's another thing I'm doing where it's like, if a stock moves in my favor, move my stops up pretty quickly. So yeah, apps ended up closing out. And yeah, it ended up closing a little bit red for the day. So I'm going to set an alert and just keep watching apps because I think there's a good chance it ends up moving. But for now, I'm not in it. GTBIF, this was one of those names where I pretty much entered this one on the high. This one, I think I should have stopped out of this one several days ago, to be honest. So this is definitely one where when I make these mistakes, it's like, all right, let's learn something from it and let me just make sure to incorporate that in my game moving forward. So I entered on this red candle right here, and I'm pretty bullish on the cannabis names, longer term. This one, just didn't work. And, you could say like, well, it just fell into support. Maybe it just rips higher, moving forward. But one, I think I should have stopped out several days earlier. Like I probably should have stopped out, I would say on this candle right here, I should have had a stop in place to take me out. And especially too, if all these other areas are showing a lot of strength, there's the opportunity cost of capital. I just didn't want to be in it. And especially when I make mistakes like that, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be doing that moving forward. A lot of times I do just like to clean it off my book, like just get that position off. I'll enter it, maybe I'll enter it a little bit higher if it starts trending nicely, but I just don't want to be in that. And then let's take a look here. So we have apps, GTBIF. I set a stop and I stopped out of that one. Boeing, I had taken a target a little bit higher, and I ended up stopping out of Boeing for 241.20, and I had paid 241.13. So that's another one where I just moved my stop up to break even. And the drawback of doing that is you're going to have stocks where it hits your stop and then it moves higher. And I think when we were in like such a FOMO environment of like the market's ripping higher every day, oh my God, am I missing out? Or my returns like as good as everyone else on Twitter, like that sort of environment. That was where, I think a lot of traders, including myself, got a little bit less disciplined. And it's like, well, I don't want to get stopped out, and then the stock goes without me. But then you can see the opposite side of that when the market gets volatile. If you don't put your stops in, then you see the other side where if you had stopped out, then you could have, avoided a loss on the trade. So yeah, let's see how Boeing did. I would imagine this one closed towards the highs. Oh yeah, and Boeing too closed down 0.94%. It's not really a good day for Boeing. But yeah, I just want to make sure I'm following all the rules essentially. I want to make sure essentially I'm practicing what I'm preaching, to be honest. So for my entry here, then into the close, I got long PCT, which is a name I've been waiting on. I've wanted to get an entry in this one. This one, take a look. PCT, Pure Cycle Technologies. This is another clean energy name. I think this one has a really long tailwind. They essentially, they recycle polypropylene, which is a material that's used in like a lot of different plastics, things like that. And they essentially have a monopoly on what they do currently. They went public through a SPAC. And this one, didn't really have its crazy tumble when all the other SPACs did. So I entered this one towards the close, and I was like, you know what, we tagged the 20-day. So I'm going to enter off of that 20-day. keep in mind this is a very volatile asset. So I'm coming in with the mindset of like, okay, this one could drop to the 50-day. So I left enough room where, I won't stop out, if this thing just has a little bit of volatility, and I can potentially add to my position if we go a little bit lower. But yeah, PCT, I really like this one. I want to see how long I can hold it, and just see what the river brings on this one. Let's do really quick, because I know I've been talking a lot today, and it is Friday. Let's really quick take a look through our options order flow. Nice, I got some more followers. That's cool. Yeah, this was a boon, because I posted, sometimes I do this, like for Pristine Capital members, I'm posting, all these trades in real time. But what I'll do is, I'll post some of the trades like after I put them on, if I think it's like a really good setup, and all my members, they already know. I'll post it on Twitter every once in a while. So like I post this first solar, I got retweeted by Cheddar Flow, so that's pretty cool. I ended up getting a couple followers from that. That is off topic. Let me pull up. Okay, so this is Cheddar Flow. We're gonna pull up our options order flow. This right here, I want my 1 million and above filter. Oh my gosh, look at all this bearish flow that came in at the close. That's ridiculous. Yeah, so we had a lot of bearish flow throughout the day, which I think was good, because everybody's in this mindset, of like the market's chopping. We don't know whether it's going to go up or down. We still have a couple days till month end. So yeah, you can see this was the first solar order that got me interested. And I was like, oh, okay, this player's coming in with 90 strike calls for September. And I started looking at it, and I like the chart setup and all that. You can see ARC puts, Qs puts. What's this one? IC. Okay, yeah, this one looks like it got pretty oversold as well. Communication services, internet content information. Huh, never heard of that company. We had some Google orders, a Baidu order came in, pretty close to 2 o'clock. I saw that, and that was when it was like really tanking or whatever, and I was like, all right, let's go. Now I have a call buyer coming in behind me. Awesome. PDD, this is another Chinese internet name that dip buyers came in to support. This is a $17.5 million order, and it is an order for June. So let's really quick look at PDD. I took a look earlier, and the chart didn't really look that great, to be honest. Yes, this one, it's also very oversold. Yeah, it looks very similar to Baidu, I guess, in that regard. Baidu is even more of a train wreck. Yeah, GSX. And this company, apparently, this one is like a known fraud. Like somebody put out like a fraud report on it. And this was when the market was like super speculative and just going. And people were just buying this name because like, why not? Like it's a fraud, but we're just going to pump it up and nobody can do anything to stop us. So like, that's like a good indication of like just how speculative the market got. Whereas like, who cares? We know this company's a fraud, but the stock's going up, so I'm buying it. This one, with all the China fear and everything, very similar to Baidu and some other names, down down over 40%. So yeah, this one really crazy move as well. Looks like some people are buying puts on that. Viacom. So this is incredible here. I love this. So Viacom, this name along with Discovery, they were on like ripping rallies for so long. Throughout all of 2021 thus far, this stock went from, if we look, this is like December 31st, it was $34.91, got all the way up over $100. So it tripled over the course of 3 months, or maybe, I guess, closer to 4 months now. But yeah, tripled very quickly, never even had a pullback. Never touched the 20-day moving average for all that time. Then this one really just came down to earth. I think this was another one where the news came out of like, there's large block orders to sell Viacom. And this one really plunged. But what I thought was so funny about this options order flow was this one very similar to Baidu, tagged the 200-day moving average, or at least got, very close. All of these put buyers started to come in like after it tagged the 200-day. So if we look here, it started hitting the lows and bottoming out at around 2 p.m. 2 p.m. And then you can see this, I would say really bottomed out between 2 p.m. and 2:20. And if you look, these people buying their puts, they like literally put the bottom in. Like I saw this one order and I was like, they're buying $3 million of puts after the, what is this, over 50% crash. At the time it was like closer to 60% crash. I was like, now they're buying puts? Like, what do they think this stock is going to do? But that's most likely some like Johnny come lately that they were waiting to hedge their position, hoping it wouldn't go down further. Then they may have been like forced to hedge. But you can see this at 2:30, and then more coming in 2:59, 3 o'clock, and they were just it was a barrage of puts on this name, like after it had already crashed. You can see more coming in at 3:52. So yeah, that always, never ceases to amaze. Sometimes I like looking at this order flow for, okay, I want to take that trade. But then a lot of it, you'd be surprised as well, is like pretty like dumb money. That's just like buying these options at the exact wrong times. It's just kind of interesting. I like using it for both purposes, to see like the dumb money and, try to weed out the smart money in there. And typically it's like, you can tell when something is smart money because they aren't like chasing like a big move. That's typically like my indication of like, if something goes down 60% in 3 days and then you're buying puts on it, like you're not smart money, not really. Okay, so then moving on, we have, then some hedges going on into the close. So yeah, we got that blow off into the close. We'll have to see what happens Monday. I wouldn't be all that surprised if we give a little bit of that, euphoric blow off away. You can see here a lot of puts coming into the close. So I'm going to be looking at the put to call ratio tonight. It would be awesome if the put to call ratio was still very high. And one thing I'm looking at as well, the CNN Fear and Greed Index, it's only at a 51. So I think this is the perfect environment. If you're looking at how does the market get that run to 4,000? Because you can see like we've been struggling to get that 4,000 level on SPX for so long. How does it happen? Most likely it's going to happen when the least number of people are positioned for it. So if you think about like how bearish everyone has gotten, including myself, this isn't me like, oh yeah, I know everything that's happening and nobody else does. Like, everyone's just gotten more cautious over the past couple of weeks. It would be fitting that while everyone's cautious, while the put to call ratio is high, CNN Fear and Greed is at neutral, that's where we get like the sneak attack to 4,000. We'll have to see. Next week, brand new week. Really quick housekeeping item. I am going to be rebalancing the Pristine Capital Trend portfolio. I'm going to be sending that out to members, the new holdings in there and which things I'm swapping out. And I'm going to rebalance, put that in on Monday at the open. With that being said, I hope you all have an awesome weekend. I think this is an awesome way to just end the week and ride off into the sunset. And I will see you all on Monday.